It's time once again for the Kennett Indian Coaches Show as we visit with Kennett Indian head football coach Andrew Webster. And, Coach, you went on the road to Dexter last Friday night. Always a big showdown for Kennett anytime they play the Dexter Bearcats. And you come away with a 42-14 win. And I know you had to be pleased getting the victory and the bouncing back after the defeat the week earlier.
Yeah, it was great. Kids really rallied around each other. It took us a few days to get our confidence back, but then once we did, it just felt like back to normal, really, So that was good.
You saw a lot of things in that ball game, very impressive. And, of course, you've tried to have a balanced offense the entire season, and I think I didn't see the final offensive numbers, but the passing plays compared to the running plays and probably total yards and touchdowns, you had a good mixture of both.
We really did. We had like 340-something yards, and like this week we had a couple more passing yards. We were like 190 in passing, but we were still right there. And we probably would have evened out the rushing yards. We had a couple fumbles here and there, which we've got to work on. We work on it all the time. Dexter did a great job of punching the ball out, and so that's something we focused on some this week as well. And but yeah, we try to stay pretty balanced, and it helps when you've got really good players in lots of different positions to do that. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
You talk about your turnovers and turning the ball over a few times, but you mentioned the importance of your defense to create some turnovers, and you did that against Dexter.
Yes, sir. They've been working on that. We made some big switches on defense after the New Madrid game. We moved Marshall Rogers from outside linebacker to inside linebacker, and he's kind of doing what Tanner Duncan used to do, which, there's no replacing Tanner Duncan, but Marshall's probably the fastest kid we've ever had in that position. He's legit 4.4 something. He can run fast. He's a big kid. He's almost 190 now. And so between him and Brooks Nigut on defense, kind of if you combine them two, they're kind of filling that role that Jake Stewart used to do for us. So defense, we're getting better each week, it seems like. I know the New Madrid not so much, but if you don't look at that as much, you compare the other games, I think we're getting right where we need to. And I was really impressed with the way those guys did good. We had Caden Taylor probably had his best game of the season, or maybe ever at defense at linebacker as well. So it was good to see those guys step up.
Well, you had a couple players injured in that New Madrid game, Brooks Nigut and you mentioned Caleb Duncan, both injured, and it was a little questionable whether they would be able to play against Dexter, but it was great to see those guys rest out. Not only did they play, but they contributed big in the victory.
They really did. And Caleb, we're trying to keep some hits off that shoulder for him. But, when we talked last week, I really didn't think we would have Brooks. But, he went to the doctor a couple times, and he came back. He wasn't quite 100%, but he was definitely good enough to be out there. And he had a heck of a night as well. So hats off to those guys. They're great players and great teammates.
And we'll be visiting with Brooks as our player segment here in the second segment of the Coaches Show this week. We keep, calling some names that, on that defensive front, and you're getting some guys with some good penetration, but you've got some young players that have stepped in and really played big roles defensively.
Yeah, we really have. They've stepped up a lot. There's some seniors in there, but, some of them other guys rotating in. We got Caden Taylor coming back, and then you look at, like, Kylan Henson had a good game at corner. I'm trying to think. And you still have Will Gaines out there as well. And Will had an early hiccup, and I was like, when it happened, I was worried that maybe he lost his confidence or whatever. But after that one hiccup, he got back on track, and he looked like normal Will out there with that, had that pick six or fumble recovery for the touchdown, and yeah. So we do have a ton of seniors, but we also have a ton of younger guys that can contribute. So, the cupboard's not going to be bare when they leave. Is it going to be different? Sure, but to think that we won't have any players is pretty silly.
Well, it was a big night for your senior quarterback, Tanner Pierce, as he really controlled things well. And, again, we see Tanner's ability to run the football and also throw it and hit. You look at the receivers' numbers, and he really distributes the wealth to his receivers.
He really does, because we've got four guys all with between 15 and 20 catches on the season, different yardage amounts, different touchdown amounts. But still, he can get it to all of them. And then you look at, throwing the ball to Boatman as well. So, and Tanner can run if something ain't there, and and he can make. I mean, that's where we try not to do it a ton, because we don't want him taking a ton of hits, but he can really make plays with his legs as well. So it's as we get through here toward the crunch time in the season, we may have to do that a little bit more, but that's part of the game, and he knows, and I know we can count on him to do anything we ask him to do. He's a special kid.
I know on offense against Dexter, it seemed like early on you may have had some issues blocking up front, but those guys really came on really after the first couple of minutes of that first quarter and started giving Tanner more time and also opening up some running lanes.
Yeah, they were doing some stuff that we didn't necessarily think they were going to do with some slants and a little bit of an alignment. And then once we got things figured out, we were okay. And that's where we've got to continue to communicate, and that's why we do what we do on offense to help with those lineman guys communicating with each other and trying to work as one the best we can. And once we got things figured out, they were able to go back out there and take care of business.
Well, it's great that they're capable of doing that. I know a lot of teams and coaches, you like to make halftime adjustments, but if you don't make them in the first half and early in a case like that, it really made a difference in this ball game because you just got distance between yourself and Dexter with what you did in the first half.
Yeah, we had a couple new plays. We hadn't ran, a couple wrinkles that helped us there. One of the things that helped us, it hasn't always helped us, but it's helped us this year. We've got 4 of our 5 linemen. Like they're not starting on defense. Now, sometimes they'll rotate in, but they don't all start, and one of them could start, but we try to protect him because he's so important to what we do offensively. We may not have that luxury as we go the rest of the way through the season, but we've tried to do that, kind of like what we did with Keywan a year ago, trying to do the same thing with Pullen. But so, like, what will happen is, we come to the sidelines and we're able to talk and how are they getting aligned and look at different things. And so it really helps when we can do that and make some adjustments. Now, we don't get everybody, but hopefully we can adjust the play calls that we need to and the blocking schemes to help have us run the right play at the right time.
Another big part of the game, I thought, was Evan Parker kicking the extra points. He showed that he could tack on that one after you score a touchdown. And, we talked about the importance of the 2-point conversion. We know that your team can do that, but also if you need that one, he can put it through the uprights.
Yeah, he's special. He's hard to block at practice. Like, we're getting to the point where he's in that, almost, not quite, but almost like that Trayvon Lemons, Demarius Warren type status where, we can't really single block him at practice anymore. He's doing great. We use him so many different ways, and we're going to continue to do that as long as we have him out there. And, it's funny because he doesn't make them all in practice. I wish he would, but sometimes when the lights come on, he turns it up and he makes it work. But it's kind of funny because in practice we'll be like, dang it, Evan, come on now. And, Friday, so far so good. He's been putting them in.
A lot goes to that, and Brooks Nigut, an important part of that, because he has to hold, and without a good snap back to Brooks, none of that works.
That's right. And Riley gets a good snap to Brooks, and Brooks holds it, and he gets it in there, and we're fortunate to have those 3 guys that can all do those jobs, and it really helped out. We've been knock on wood, we've been good on 2-point conversions and on extra points this year. I know we're above 50% on our 2-point conversion attempts. I think we're I want to say, Barton has it totaled for me, I think we're 61% on 2-point conversions, and we're up there pretty good on extra points as well. So hopefully we haven't just jinxed ourselves here, but I'm hoping that we can continue to have that type of success as we move forward.
Well, Coach, coming out of that win at Dexter, I know there are a lot of bright spots there. You bounced back after the New Madrid homecoming loss. But I know there's some things you wanted to work on, and I'm sure this week in practice that's what your guys are doing.
Oh, yeah. We've had probably 30 and 40-minute longer practices this week than we've had even in some of the earlier weeks. Man, we want to the playoffs are, for us in our brain, they're basically here because how big district goes with a win here could change massively in the playoff scene, the way the whole thing looks. And it's kind of complicated, but, if we can beat Bluff, then we'll probably almost surely lock up at least the 3 seed in district. And then if we could beat Valley, then everything goes crazy and it all goes to points, and it'll be you would think, well, we would beat them, so we would just automatically get it. But I'm telling you, it's crazy on how that's going to work. We're going to try to win both of them, and then either way, whatever happens, we should host in the first round. And then unless somehow we get the 1 seed, then we're going to be on the road in the second round of districts if we win the first round. And then, who knows where we'll be going after that. But we got 3. We should have 3 at home, and then after that we'll probably have to be road warriors the rest of the way.
Well, we'll talk a little bit about Poplar Bluff, your opponent, coming up tonight at Metz Cherry Stadium, and then Valley Catholic, I think currently ranked number 3 and the top team ranked in the district with point standings with the last regular season games. Great to have those at home, and I know you're looking for a big crowd tonight.
Absolutely. We'd love to have a big rowdy crowd and everybody out here having a good time. I mean, it's Friday night in the Boot Hill. Like, come on out and watch a game. I mean, what else you got going on? At least what other positive things you got going on? I mean, we should get people out here and let's be a part of it.
Coach Andrew Webster on the Kennett Indian Coaches Show. We're going to take a break. We'll visit with senior Brooks Nigut when the Coaches Show continues right after this. Back with the Kennett Indian Coaches Show, our player guest this morning, Brooks Nigut. And Brooks, a senior on this team, and we visited with Brooks before, and very familiar name with Kennett Indian football. We're going to talk primarily about the football because I remember seeing your name early on. You just a youngster on some really good football teams out there seeing a lot of playing time. Hard to believe it's already your senior.
Yeah, it is hard to believe.
Tell us a little bit about your senior year. I know that you had the one loss against New Madrid, a ball game that you were injured, and I know our sideline camera and sideline reporter was right over there and saw that, and we were really concerned that your senior year might be over. It was just great seeing you back in there against Dexter.
Well, yeah, it hurt really bad when I got hurt, but it eventually just ended up being like a bone bruise, and I came back real quick.
Well, you're a tough one, and we knew that, and you're a very important part of the team. Defensively, let's talk about your role with the team, and I know Coach has talked about your importance and your mental ability to see things and call out plays. Tell us what you do from back there behind the defense in your safety position.
So at safety, I'm usually calling the coverages. I got to read the formations. I got to call strength calls. I got to sometimes get the D-line in the right gaps and all that. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of mental work.
Well, you do a good job with it, and I know it's a part of the game that the casual fan doesn't realize what's going on out there because we don't hear it from the stands and hear all that's going on. Offensively, you're very versatile. You're a wide receiver. You're a slot receiver. Both of those have a little bit different roles. Tell us which one you enjoy doing best.
I like slot receiver the best because, I really like running routes and catching the ball. And Tanner really throws really good, so it makes me look good.
Well, you have good size, you have good speed, and really good hands, and that's all important for a slot receiver. Tell us what, as a senior, you have 2 more regular season home games. Poplar Bluff, you have to remember that game last year. It was a miserable night at Poplar Bluff early on, and then really cold after the rain moved out. What would it mean to you to get a victory over Poplar Bluff?
It would mean a lot to me because it would help with our district standings, and it'd be like a revenge game. They talked a lot of trash last year, and everybody remembers it.
Those are things players remember, and I know that you guys would like to get some revenge tonight. Tell us a little bit about your future plans, being a senior here, and I know you got baseball season coming up after you wrap up your football, so still more activities for Brooks, but tell us what you want to do after high school.
So after high school and after baseball season, I'm planning on going to Three Rivers and continuing to play baseball. And I don't really know what I would like to major in yet, but I got it down to like 3 things.
Well, you've got time to figure that out, and it's been a pleasure watching you throughout your high school career. And I know that we're going to talk more before your high school career is over, and go out and let's get the district championship.
Yes, sir.
Brooks Nigut, our senior player guest on the Kennett Indian Coaches Show. We're back with Coach Andrew Webster as we talk about tonight's matchup against Poplar Bluff right after this. Back with the Kennett Indian Coaches Show as we visit with Kennett Indian head football coach Andrew Webster and Coach Poplar Bluff, the opponent. You mentioned a little bit in the first segment the importance of getting a win, not only against Poplar Bluff but against Valley Catholic if you want to try to get that number 1 spot in the district or at least the number 2 spot. But first things first, Poplar Bluff, Class 5 team, and the point total's out there if you can pull off the victory tonight.
Yeah, huge game. To our kids, Dexter's our rival, and then, when we play Bluff in anything, it's up there as well. I mean, we always want to try to beat them. They've got some talented players out there. They've got a lot of coaches. They're a good program. They're Class 5. But yeah, I mean, we're a good program too. We've got good coaches. We got good players. We put a lot of work into this thing. So we'll see what happens out there.
I think when you compare Class 3 football in general terms around the state and Class 5 football in general terms, you talked about coaches. It's the number of coaches that Poplar Bluff has compared to the number of coaches that you have on your staff. And guys have to wear multiple hats and do multiple things. And over there, they probably have twice as many coaches working with players and probably twice as many players out on the team.
Right. I mean, you start looking at numbers. Let's say they have – let's say we got 500 in our school, roundabout. To be Class 5, they've got to be 1,000 plus. So let's just pretend that they have, like you said, twice as many as us. And so, and they got twice as many coaches. They've got, probably twice as many players. And they should, because they have that amount of kids in their school. So if they're not out there getting those kids out, then, if they don't have twice as many as us, then, like, what are they doing? Like, why not? Like, they should have that many. And so, we're, like we talked in the first segment, we have 3 or 4 linemen who aren't playing both ways right now, even though we may start doing some more with the other. But, they'll have way more one-way players than we'll have. So they'll be able to make adjustments. They'll be able to talk to their coaches, use the huddle stuff that they have as well, that we have as well. But, we may have huddle sideline, which is an incredible tool, so we could see some plays and make some adjustments. But they're going to have the vast majority of their offense with them or their defense with them to look at it and make those adjustments before they come out. And, I know last year we went in there with 4 coaches and we looked over and they had like 11 or 12. And so there's just, it is what it is. And I can tell you this, when we beat them, in the years that we've beaten them or whatever, boy, it feels good because you're like, we've probably done twice the work as what them coaches have done just because we have to. When you look over and they've got 8 guys or whatever, or 5 on offense and 5 on defense, and we've got our 5 guys total, it feels good when you're able to make adjustments and make things happen and be successful, and then sometimes when you don't, you're looking over there and you're like, man, God dog, they got it. It feels like they have, everything in the world against you, but, it just is what it is. We've had some success with them. We beat them in 7-on-7 this summer, which is just kind of a passing thing. They've got some real weapons over there. They've got some good players. They had some good players last year, but man, our guys were determined, and I think we'll stick together. And I don't see us giving up or being scared or anything like that. So it ought to be a fun night.
We'll talk a little bit about the Mules. I know they lost a very talented senior quarterback, Cannon Carr, who one of the top quarterbacks in the area for sure, and it's tough to replace those quarterbacks when you lose one. And with the Mules with 2 wins, but they played some really good competition this season. They
really have. They did lose their quarterback, but they've got – I don't know the kid's name. We always run into this problem because when I look at them on film, you just look at numbers for the most part, and then you do ages and different things. But they've got a tall kid, and if we don't get to him and make him move, he can really throw the ball well. And then they have this other quarterback that we saw in the summer who I think he's playing slot receiver now. He is just massive. He's a large human, I'm telling you. And you see him, you go, yeah, that guy's big. But, he looks like a giant tight end, but he can play quarterback too. They've got some tough running backs. they've got really big line, like and they've always had that, compared to our guys. And so it'll be interesting to see how we match up with them in the trenches as well, because they've got some good guys, they got some good linebackers, but we're not short on players either. We got some good players too, so I'm interested to see how this thing pans out.
What do you feel like the keys to victory are to get the win against Poplar Bluff?
For us, we got to limit their big plays, and I think it comes down to turnovers. For whatever reason, people would be shocked if they realize how much we practice turnovers and things, which is all the time, and to still have them, that worries me. But and the turnovers kind of got us last year, and injuries and turnovers got us last year. But you start looking at it, I think we got to take care of the football, maybe force a few turnovers, whether that be straight up turnovers or turnovers on downs, or get them to punt, and just try to execute best we can. I think this one comes down to the trenches. Can we get a push and move the ball? And we're not. And I think that's where it comes down to. I'm gonna put it on that O line to get nasty and go make some plays.
All right, Coach. You had Brooks Nigut and Caleb Duncan that were injured, and they played last week. Any bangs and bruises going to keep anybody out this week? Maybe.
Riley Spencer rolled his ankle pretty bad in practice the other day on Tuesday. He's very questionable. Blake Raspberry rolled his. I think he's going to be able to play, but not having him out there. So we'll have Darion Davis in there on defense, and Brooks and those guys should be fine and be out there. We've had a couple kids sick this week, so it'll be interesting. Not COVID stuff, but we've had some stomach bug issues this week and other things, and but it's end of the season football. It's getting later and things like that happen, and we'll just try to overcome the adversity and see what we can do. But we may have a few out, but we're gonna roll with who we got, and let's see what happens.
All right, Coach. We hope for a big crowd at Metz-Cherry Stadium as the Mules come to play the Indians of Kennett. Good luck tonight, and let's get that victory.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Perry.
Coach Andrew Webster, our guest, as always, on the Kennett Indian Coaches Show. Again, we'll be on the air 6:30 this evening at Metz-Cherry Stadium with a pregame show. Kickoff at 7. Come out, be loud, and cheer on the Indians tonight. We'll talk to you this evening with more Kennett Indian football.